Hi, YouTube. I hope you're doing well. It was a little odd yesterday. I was talking about Israel's neighbors and how they're warring with them. And before I went to sleep last night, I saw that 007 was reporting on uh, the outbreak of war again last night. That war had been declared or whatever, and the same with Israeli News Live. Just a little ironic. But I had watched a movie that was made about an hour away from my house. And on my Facebook, I have pictures of well, there's a park and different. It's the St. Lawrence Waterway and the St. Croix River that is coming out of Lake Superior and goes into the Fond du Lac Indian Reservation. Well, I was telling you all about different things that had happened to the Native children, um, taken out of their homes and forced to uh, go to Catholic school and whatever, and the hell that these people went through right up until 1975. And I know things like this is still going on in my country towards natives. Not all of them, but some of them. But if you want to watch a phenomenal movie, I mean, it's a little at first, and it's based on a true story, what had happened to this woman and her family and whatnot. But it's called Older Than America. It 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 made me cry. The night before I was watching it, I was still awake at 4 o'clock in the morning while I was dozing on and off. And three different times I had started this movie over because I had fell asleep, and um, I'm glad I did finally just go and watch the whole thing. Last night I finally made it through the rest of it, and it did make me cry. But just the stuff these people went through, and the way the church and government officials and other people try to cover it up. I mean, the broken treaties that were made with these people against them on their own land and the different things that happen. That's not what this movie is about. I can't tell you what it is about specifically, or I'll give away the whole thing. Um, it's a mystery, crime, suspense based on a true story, Older Than America. As a matter of fact, I will put the link in this video. It's just part of our history that everybody should know. And I specifically would like any rabbi listening to me. I know that what the Jewish people have suffered. This is just an example of what all people around the world have suffered at the hands of those that we would call elitist or dark cabal. It's not seclusive. And the Holocaust did not last right up until 1975. This has been going on for hundreds of years in America now, and it's still our government does not honor the people of our own country. That right there is the issue. Even before I knew I had native blood in me, and here's the weird thing about it. I had been up there, and when Doug and I were going to Superior, Wisconsin one time, well, we've been through there before, but I had him stop at this one mountain park where there's a lake called like Golden something Lake or whatever. And we had stopped there, and I had like the creepiest feeling. But then I found out last night, I thought they were Ojibwe people on that reservation. They're Cree. my bloodline, which is Algonquin. So is Ojibwe, but the Ojibwe actually chased the Cree and Lakota more north and west, and were some of them were government agents that killed their own people. And so, but those Lakota and Cree, the Algonquin tribes, are my blood. And I was really freaked out to know, because I know another place where I want to move that has that bloodline, and I never got a bad vibe off those people. Um, I had the most enjoyable times of my life. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And uh, anyway, this I would rate this movie like top shelf. It's excellent. I mean, as far as true history is concerned, it wouldn't hurt any of us. So even before I knew I had native blood, because they told me I was full-blooded German, and I found out that I have dozens of bloodlines in me. It'd take a while to name them all and how they all go back into everything else and whatever and whatever. It's a trip. But but the odd thing is even my adopted parents took me to powwow where I was um, initiated as an adult in a ceremony. So they knew I had that bloodline, and they never told me, you know. They knew it, but they lied to everybody in the whole world just to make me look like a completely white child for them, you know, which is about the most selfish thing that they could have ever done in their lives, you know. It's like my would be half Native American grandfather. Um, he wasn't a slouch. I mean, he was in the army. He was a police officer, played the guitar. I mean, his sister was a accomplished grand pianist. I mean, so like the bloodline, even on the native side, isn't like a low vibration type people or anything like that. You know, I have scientists and ministers and all kinds of people in my family tree. But yeah, I would recommend watching that movie, everybody. Not only is it just a good movie, but to give you a little update on the mindset of the Native American people, you know, because I got in trouble even in school asking my teacher how Columbus could have discovered a country when people were already there. I think the reason I did say that is because my adoptive father had a cousin I called my Uncle Harry. Haganah was mayor of a town north of me that and had married a Native American princess. So the combination of their two bloodlines mingled on that reservation north of me. But um, just knowing those people and getting to know them and love them, like the one grandmother had taught me how to make quilts and stuff when I was a little kid, and uh, the adoptive mom that raised me was somewhat of a pretty good seamstress among all her other crafts that aren't so commendable, you know. But anyway, a little bit of a brief history lesson for everybody on what the natives are still going through with their children and offsprings wouldn't really be a bad thing for anybody to realize. And a lot of people don't realize right now today that the majority of young Native American women, I won't say all of them, but the majority of them are abused, and many of them go missing. and it's never even investigated. These women just, there's women and children that just disappear off of reservations, never to be heard from again. And the experiments and the different things that have gone on against this bloodline, it's appalling. It's appalling. If you saw it, just watch the movie. If you don't have compassion after that and understand why these people really deserve to be in charge of their own country, I don't care who says what. Everybody's so afraid that the most peaceful people on the planet would hurt you, and the only thing they ever did was try to retaliate against their women and children being murdered or raped or worse, you know, slaughtered, everybody, genocided. That's exactly what happened. How would you like it if somebody came into your home right now and insisted that you participate in their religion and their ways of doing things in your life, or you're going to die, or they're going to kill your children or your wife? It's all real. And it's still going on. It's just that it's not as recognizable to the people because people really, you don't know and you don't understand, or you just don't care, you know? And yeah, Indians got a whole big rap of being like drunken Indians and whatnot. Not not any more so than white people. It's just that they got a, and alcohol does hit them worse because they never had all that sugar in their diet before that. And many of them turn into diabetics because of that. Plus, the smallpox that is in our veins, you can see it in reflection. I'll give you a example of a part Native American that you can just see the infection in his skin is somebody like Tommy Lee Jones, for instance. When you see those pock marks, you know they have native blood in them because of that. You can tell by the scars on their skin. It's a fact. That's, if you saw my skin up close, that had been, um, I would say probably frequency activated. I can't prove any of this, but what people are calling different names of a sickness that is going around. Um, I've found ways to combat it, but nobody's really delving into the true science of what's going on with human beings, the warfare that is going on against all of us. It's not exclusive to any one culture, you know, it's all of us. If you aren't paying dues to the dark cabal, literally paying a part of your wage to be in their group, then you're their enemy. Whether I'm their enemy or they're my enemy or not doesn't make any difference. I'm theirs because that's the way they've made it. Well, you have to defend yourself. Part of that defense is understanding what's going on with all people, all people. But is it so sweet to sit back on a daily basis and realize that a whole culture of people is being genocided out of their own country and nobody's saying anything about it? For over 200 years now, all the white people in my life are silent about it. Of course, I do on Facebook, or and maybe even here, have a lot of friends that are mixed blood. And I would say there's even some people that in England might even have that mixture of blood and they may not even realize it. You know, the same with the black or the Spanish. like the Spanish and the Irish being called Black Irish and those types. So the mixture of blood, and once again, the Illuminati or the Dark Cabal, they're not just one heritage. They've mixed and mingled all over the planet to try and hide what used to be the darkness of their skin. That's why, like with the Vril Society and whatnot, with the blonde hair and the blue eyes being such a prize, going from what was utterly dark into different bloodlines to try and hide who they are from the people, and genociding the darker skinned people out of the world for their ultimate control and to hide within the people of the world. And that's what's going on. I've tried to tell people that are of color, this is why, this is what's happening to us, this is what's happening to you. And if you don't have any of that blood in you, you probably could care less. But then guess what? Guess whose side you're more closely related to? And that's the wolf you're feeding. Even the denial of my words, or the ignoring of it, is on you. You know, how do you like that? Because it's the truth. So, oh, and by the way, I'm doing pretty good today. Not too bad. But yeah, that movie made me cry. And the things even that I had gone through, I've told you all, like they hooked me up electronically. They did all kinds of things to me, trying to figure me out, like actually almost like deconstructing me to see how I tick. You know, I don't think they really even figured it out yet. But yeah, hypnotism, witchcraft, all kinds of stuff. Real nasty, dirty, real stuff they tried to do to me to take God out of my heart and make me as soulless as they are. And what I'm saying is the absolute truth. I don't care who believes what. I lived it, you know. So, yeah. If that movie doesn't touch your heart, nothing will, you know. So, but I still say if you saw how, like the lawyers at for casinos or different Native American establishments and in their towns and businesses and the way they run things is no different than other people and maybe quite superior in a lot of ways. The way they have overcome what was meant to destroy them. I'm just trying to help them hang on to the little bit of culture that they do have left, you know. And I think that's really important. I would love to see a chief of any tribe be the president of the United States. That would make my day. Or I can't say any tribe. There's some warring tribes that even dishonor their own family, that don't even deserve. Well, they're not even from America. They invaded also. So, I mean, and that would be part of the Phoenician bloodline, what they called. They are the ones that served the so-called giants that roamed the earth back in those days. That weren't actually giants. They were just very tall white people, red-haired, and a lot of those would interbreed with the natives, making a whole new type of people, you know. But anyway, so I really hope to be able to touch more people's hearts with the truth of those people and help them out. There's just thousands left. There's not millions. There's millions of Jews out there. Millions. There's not millions of Native Americans. It's down to the thousands. It's just like I heard one line in that movie that just touched me. I do have enough Native in me where I could go get subsidies from the government. I actually have been invited onto reservation land by the people who are my bloodline. They believe that there is a white female that comes back into their tribe to help them out. Maybe I am that. I don't know. But I am helping them regardless, even before I heard of that myth or that fable or their belief um, that the ancestors would be helping this person. And, well, anyway, I always felt like that anyway, so whoever it doesn't really matter if that could actually be a thing that people could understand the people of their own country. I mean, if you're born here, yeah, you're a Native American then by adoption, but not actually in all reality. So I think we should pay homage and have honor for the forefathers of this country and their offsprings. But people are afraid of them, you know. We had a little friend, gone now. He died about probably 15 years ago, and his name was Jerome Skinaway, and we watched people abuse Jerome, and he never lifted a finger to hurt anybody. He did, however, start singing at somebody one time, and I started laughing because I knew what he was singing. And oh, by the way, what I left everybody on yesterday wasn't very nice, and it was referring to this color. And I said, F you, bitch, was what I said. And that was in the Crow language, which is really close to Lakota. So, or Algonquin. It's another Algonquin tribe, but they're a murdering, warring race, you know. But I just thought I'd throw in a little bit of the language, you know, give you an example. So, anyway, I used to work with a lot of the Crow. I worked on a reservation called Crow Agency in a town called Hardin, Montana, at the hospital there, and so I worked with a lot of the people off the reservation, Crow Agency. And they eat dogs. They raise dogs for food. Maybe they're related to the Chinese. I don't know. Maybe. They're not a very productive people. Um, as far as they want to be left alone, but as far as wanting to like build a city or establish themselves in any governments or anything like that, they don't want anything to do with nothing like that at all. I mean, some of them raise cattle. Not all of them just live in Crow Agency, which is a tiny village, and just raise dogs, but most of the people in that village do. But there's people outside of there on the reservation that raise cattle, Montana or whatever, different animals. So not all of them just eat dog meat, but They do. And the thing that really astounded me is these weren't great big dogs or anything. They were just like medium size. It'd be like if I was raising dogs for me, I would get like Newfoundland or um, Saint Bernard or Great Dane or something pretty big, like 100-pound dog. Why butcher a 25-pound dog? So you got one roast, like you have this puppy around for a year and then you cook it and it's only 25 pounds. And that's less the bones. You probably got about 13 pounds of meat when you take the fur off that poor dog and eat it. How can you do that? It just wanted a kiss, you know. I, w- I was making jokes like this on that reservation too, so I'm not saying anything that I wouldn't say to their faces, and they know me. So, anyway, poor puppies. I called one to me one time. I'm like, here, boy. And I'm like, oh, that's right. You're somebody's dinner. I can't pet you, in front of these people, you know. So, or like, you're never going to be a bird dog. They don't even like you, stuff like that. So I really have fought against injustices all my life, really, no matter where I see it or how I encounter it. I just do what I feel is right and say what I feel is the right thing to say, no matter what. That was at 17. I was like that out there. So, yeah, poor dogs. Oh, I saw something so grotesque about maybe 6 years ago on Facebook. These people sent through, it was a giant wok to cook in, and they actually put live dog in there in boiling water for alive, and it was screaming, and it was real, you know. I told the people they were gross and that they could go to hell, you know. And it was, and they should, you know. Why why cook something alive? That's sadistic. I don't care where they're from. Looked like they could have been, might have been like India or I'm on board with a lot of people don't believe that the Earth is, except for in like cities and whatnot. But I don't believe that there's as many people on the planet as what they say there is. From what I can tell, in the Americas, it's not as crowded as what they say. 300 million people on this gigantic continent. Well, in the United States, that's not a lot, you know. There's enough land on this planet for everybody to have hundreds of acres just about anywhere you choose to go. But they don't tell you the truth about it. I know they're lying, you know. You can even look at the countryside in China. There's not houses all over the place. They're all crammed in their cities, just like they want to do to us. They don't want anybody to own any land because they won't be able to control you if you have your own place, you don't need them, you know. So, Anyhow, yeah, please watch that movie. I mean, if you like crime and suspense, it seems a little hokey at first, um, but it isn't, you know. If you just give it a little bit of time and you'll get into it, and it's just a good movie regardless, even putting the people aside. I just want to make the point to the people that have the victim mentality that even though the Native American people are still being disregarded and disrespected, they don't have that mentality, you know? They weren't made into slaves, they were murdered. Even the black people that got emancipated came north to help the armies slaughter the Native Americans. But yet now, my government wants to give money to the black people that came here as slaves. Why? There were Irish slaves, there were English slaves, indentured servants. I could go on and on. There's all kinds of people that have suffered at the hands of other people that sold human flesh. I'm talking about the people that were assassinated so their country could be invaded. That's a pretty big deal. And it's still going on. And yes, all of us had known like what we would consider like a wild Indian. It's kind of a persona that some people take on upon themselves, and there is a lot of native tribes that, like I say, they actually worked with the Dark Cabal and were of that bloodline in disguise. Excuse me, that came from other places, and I gotta put some of my skin stuff on. I got an itch. Could be my cat laying by me, but something's getting me. That helps. Anyway, yeah, weird. I'm just talking about Israel warring with their neighbors yesterday, and last night all hell breaks loose over there. Is that a coincidence? Doesn't seem like it to me, but I don't know. I can't prove it, but that's just ironic. I don't know. Things like that happen to me all the time. Here's another scenario of stuff that happens all the time. Um, I'll be listening to something and I'll hear or see the same word I had just said or thought out of somebody else's mouth on here. Or I was watching a video and somebody mentioned something about rain and it started raining out. I mean, things that I can prove that don't seem like a coincidence. I can't prove it. But it happens almost on a daily basis. In fact, this happened so bad when I was in my 30s and 40s. I turned my television off because what I was thinking was coming out of the television, or answers to questions that I had was coming out of there. but I didn't trust the answers. It's like, I don't know if any of you have ever gone through that or something in my life, and somebody would make a song about it. It just, you know, okay, like Dancing Queen, the people that wrote that song, ABBA, did they just earn money from a dance contest when they were 17? Probably not, but I had, it's weird. Or I love rock and roll. Put another dime in the jukebox, baby. And it starts, um, saw him standing there at the record machine. Knew he must have been about 17, playing my favorite song, or something, playing my favorite song. Something couldn't be wrong, or whatever. But the point is, when this came out, I was 17. And it exactly happened to me just like that. And then I just happened to meet the man I was going to marry at the time. I did marry, um, being his zodiac sign was a Leo. And L. Stewart came out with a song called Year of the Cat. Just little, I don't know, just not so weird, but actually real. I could go on and on. Just the weirdest non coincidences in my life. Odd. How about you? Do you have those types of songs and experiences? And yeah, I can't prove a thing. I think probably if I had had recording devices, I could have recorded stuff and proved it, but I can't. Or that I believe that I would actually be able to telepathically connect with somebody and give them an idea for a song, and then there it would be. I can't prove any of that either, but we are all connected. But who are we connected to? And for what reason? There's more of them types of songs that I lived through that it's just so weird. Yeah. And I'll give you another one. You've heard this before, but it's true. I knew Prince before he was even, I mean, he played music, but he wasn't in a band yet. But I had come off the from the alley door into this Woolworths department store and bought a Raspberry Beret, the song he wrote about. And then that same day, he actually gave me a ride home on his Triumph motorcycle, partway home. If my dad had saw a black kid giving me a ride home, he probably would have murdered him, you know. But just little freaky coincidences that are not a coincidence. And I told you about where I went to watch him play at First Avenue, and he flopped on the floor, and I'm like, and I walked out and went across the road to the street. It was a funner place to hang out. Um, at the time I thought better rock and roll. You know, what I was into. I wasn't really into his style of music at the time, you know, until he came out with like, well, when Doves Cry, his dad actually wrote the piano music for that. And, but Purple Rain was phenomenal. But he hadn't written that yet. Yeah. If you thought he was little when he was an adult, you should have seen him when he was a kid. I didn't think he would be able to even give me a ride on his bike, but ooh, excuse me. Yeah. He was a nice guy, but I didn't think too much anything special, you know. But this is true too, and I don't know. I don't care if you believe me or not, but he went to give me a kiss before we left, and it started raining on us. He goes to kiss me. We're just kissing, and it starts raining. I looked up, and it was only cloud in the sky, raining on us. It did get my jean jacket wet, and then on the way home, I kind of carried it for a while, and was about 6 more blocks. Maybe not that far, about 4 or 5. Weird, very weird. Maybe that was God's way of saying, I don't want you to be with this guy. I don't. It's some strange shit I've been through. Yeah, those raspberry berets, you could buy them for, like the green berets for American Army, and the red ones were more, I think it was like Iranian Army or Afghanistan. One of them would wear that red colored, maroon colored beret, just a round hat, Weird. They were 25 cents, and they were made out of felt, and felt's made out of lamb, wool. And then they work it into a material where it's actually, well, felt, if you know what it is, But it's really not washable. You have to dry clean them. But it's just strange. The whole thing was strange. When I heard that song, I thought, this, my life's so unreal. I can't believe it. I'm the only one that did that. That was me. Weird. Anyway, I came in through the back door. And I did because if I had gone in the front door of that department store, my adopted dad worked for the city and I was skipping school and he might have caught me because he was driving around in his city truck for the waterworks. So I had to be careful. Or it might have been, no, I don't think I was a runaway at that time, but a lot of times they would have like a APB, an all points bulletin out on me, and I might have been in the city, but I had to be careful how I moved so they wouldn't find me. Even when I was living in a group home before I got emancipated, I was really careful not to be caught out on the streets because, well, I was scared of them for one thing, and if they got me in enclosed like a vehicle or a building or something, they could have their way with me. So, yeah. Anyway, I think Prince is still alive. I just don't feel like he's gone. Maybe that's because I feel his soul. I have no clue. But I'm one of these that do believe that some of the, um, if you have the money to go underground, I think a lot of people have. I'm one of them. Because I've been on high speed trains inside a mountain, inside a government facility, and seen shops and restaurants. I saw it with my own eyes. So I'm not living in La La Land, and this is not untrue. It's all true. I've got maps of missile silos and connected facilities throughout the United States that I've shared before on videos and on my Facebook, and everything I'm saying is true. They have underground cities, not just under the airport in Denver, which is really freaky. Denver, Colorado is a freaky ass city. Even go sit on the ground, you can hear stuff in the ground. You just can, you know. And where I grew up around Minneapolis, there's a cave system connected to underground facilities that are connected to other underground facilities, and that's how they would do a lot of smuggling during bootlegging times, and that in between Chicago and Minneapolis. They called Minneapolis Little Chicago for that reason, because if gangsters were wanted in Chicago, they would migrate to Minneapolis and still keep doing their dirty deeds, their business up in there. But when I'd skip school, some of the sandstone caves and other places would be places Minneapolis kids would go underground if they knew about that. Pretty sure Prince knew about it. And he's probably right under Minneapolis, right under his mansion that he built, where whatever they call that place. Yeah. I don't think Michael Jackson is alive, and the reason I don't think he's alive is because he didn't seem very health minded with all the hard drugs he was doing. Now, they said that of Prince, but I am not so certain. I really am not. And the difference between Michael Jackson and Prince to me, in this respect, both being artists like that, but Prince's values and I could say like ethics, a little bit iffy on some of that, but his mus- music, um, musical inclination was more on a orchestrated level, like as far as orchestra. He could play so many instruments. He wasn't just on one level like Michael Jackson. He was known mostly for his singing and his dancing, whereas Prince could do it all, you know? Maybe not quite on the dancing level, but musically he was far superior in my mind, you know? Yeah. I used to have a crush on Michael Jackson, and then when he started looking more like Diana Ross, oh, I loved her too. Or if she's still alive, she was one of my just favorites when I was a kid. But when he started looking different, I didn't like him anymore. It's like, well, you don't even look like a man anymore, you know? Needless to say, he had some things going on up there that probably weren't just not normal. Could have something to do with the drugs he was taking, maybe. You know, we can look at somebody's psychosis and just say, well, this happened to you, and it could be trauma based or whatever, and totally ignoring what drugs was his mom on when she was pregnant with him. You know, it's just like they wanted to give me this one thing because I was so sick that would alleviate some of my symptoms from being sick to my stomach, but yet could injure my baby. And it's like, well, what do I do? I'm not going to take this pill that could cause death, you know, and uh, physical abnormalities in my child, you know. Well, I decided against it. But, yeah, just reminiscing. Maybe I should quit that. Yeah. Can you imagine God looking at all of us and reminiscing on everything we've ever done, which He does do? Isn't that a trip to think that the person that created us knows us, you know? You just can't hide. Can't hide from God. He's in our blood, you know? Oh, that's what I was going to touch on that I didn't want to forget about was there was a Time for an Uprising, I think is the name of his channel. I did share it yesterday in my community. It's a video about frequencies where they had government experts come in talking about the different programs that they have. Remember, I was telling you about the ley lines and the monoliths and the telephone lines and the rail lines. They didn't touch on the rail lines, the waterways, and the monoliths, but how like telephone lines and electrical lines can carry frequencies into your home for uses in mind control, and it's all really true. And the government employee that had worked in these types of situations is on there telling people what I was telling you about, that it is absolutely true and it's absolutely possible. If you think about just the thoughts you can pull out of the ether, it's electric, we're toroidal, and the same thing can happen to us within our homes. That's why we always have to be really careful what actually is our thoughts. You know, if there's a suggestive thought, or I call suggestive thinking, and even people in personal life can say or do something to encourage your mind to go in another direction that maybe isn't in your best interest. I'm always leery about that. That's why I won't trust anybody except for the Spirit of God in me. It helps guide me. It saves my life. I couldn't tell people enough. Your instincts are the most important part of your humanoid makeup. Your fight or flight responses and your actual intuition. It's really important to teach kids their instincts. And a lot of it's being ignored where, like, oh no, you're just saying somebody will lie to you and say, well, what you're thinking isn't right. And if you know it is, stand on that because these are people that are going to be using the dark force against you, and they'll say and do anything for their benefit. That in turn puts other people's lives in danger because they're not allowed to use their natural instincts, you know? And if somebody was going to kill you, you'd certainly want to know about it. Well, that's what the truther movement really is all about. It's not just learning our history from around the world and how everybody is connected. It's realizing the people that want to destroy that are living in the now, that don't see a future for themselves in the house of God, that don't care about you, that will say and do anything to destroy you here and now and stop you from excelling into the house of God where we belong, you know, or some of us do, you know. Hope I see you there. Well, cheers, everybody. So, anyway, back to the Native Americans not having that victim mentality. Have you noticed that? They're still of a warrior mindset, not warring on other people, but the strength and their pride within their culture and their integrity in their families and things that people really don't realize or understand. That's true. I mean, I've seen some families that leave a little bit to be desired as far as their integrity or whatever. But I would say a lot of that has to do with the alcoholism on the reservations and their depressive nature from the things that have happened to them that they're really not getting enough emotional support with. And most people in the world don't even care. They could care less. These people are almost gone and nobody cares. I personally think that Native American people are very strong, beautiful people that we can't afford to just wipe off this planet and forget about with their natural medicines and their planting and growing and their teaching of being in tune with the earth and their knowledge of astrology and just it, everything. They can do it all. I'll give you a for instance. You would live longer if you lived in a wigwam or a teepee and spent your time connecting with God in a sweat lodge and eating the right way. You know, just that's a scenario versus somebody that would say, I'd rather be around a high rise and elegant restaurant and get in my vehicle and pollute the earth or whatever. I'm just, the differences between the types of people. The Native Americans do not want to build sky rises. They never did. Or that's what they would have done, you know. But then you do have like the Pueblo Indians that were masons as far as their brickwork and the tiles that they would make and pretty elaborate, you know. But like the longhouses and the halls that the Cree will make. It's not. They're like log homes. They're elaborate, and the longhouses, the people didn't live all together in communal like that. That was their community room, their community. If somebody's house would burn down, and then they were able to move into this community center, but they each had their own establishments, they had their own homes. If you look at the Cree building structures, it's very, very similar to how World War One and World War Two would build the Quonset, which is a rounded type long house like that for like army barracks and that type of thing, could withstand the weather better and house more people. It's the same type of wood construction. And I would say they probably got that type of floor plan and architecture from the Cree, you know, because they didn't have it over in Europe. Not like that. Well, that's just my thoughts. I had a Quonset house, a pre World War II. It's World War One Quonset, actually. Well, let's see, anything else going on? Oh, I'm watching Professor Wagner's. He's got a Beware of Woke Apocalypse and Victimhood Endgame. Let me click off here a sec. Um, oh, new interviews. Uh, it's really interesting. I mean, yeah, some people will, like, something bad happens to them in their life, and then for the rest of their life, they're using that for an excuse to treat other people poorly, or not to even recognize that other people in the world, all over the world, go through similar things or even worse, and they don't even pay it any mind. They're just like, well, poor me. Or this happened to my grandparents, so it's poor me, you know. I don't I don't buy into all that, you know. And there are some Talmudic teachings and Noahide laws that I don't care who pulls the poor me card. There's some Judaism religious beliefs that harm other people, and specifically children, that you're never going to pull the poor me card on me and not care about other people. I'm not going to care about you until them Noahide laws are recognized as man-made, not God-given, and they're abolished. Until that happens, I'm not listening to any rabbi with a golden heart. Me, my golden heart is not going to recognize the victim in you until you abolish those laws that you can marry children, and if it fits, you can do it, and the rest if I don't subserve to you and your religion, that you're going to take me out off this planet or do anything you want to do to me or my children, yeah, too bad. I'll fight you in that respect. And with that lack of respect that you show other people on that. So there's a reason why some people of the Jewish faith are not welcome in other people's countries. There's good reason for that. So that's not being a victim. You better think about that. Better think about other people's holocausts and the genocide that's still going on currently. It's not past tense. This is a current thing that even you yourself, as a rabbi, are doing to my people in my country with your mouth every time you open it for your own victimhood. In my country, not the land you were given, not your promised land, my land. And I don't mean to point at anybody, and I hope you will stand up for the Native American people in your own country and give those people a voice and let them exhibit the strength and the grace that they have from God in their own country and become leaders like they deserve. Until I see any of what I just said come into fruition, I really don't care what your peoples have been through. I mean, I care, you know, but not any more than for other people. Just like the Palestinians, I feel just as bad for them as I do any Jewish person that's being hurt today. All of them, everybody. Not just one or the other, everybody. And I really hope you feel the same way, especially about the natives here in our own country. Come on, people, for real. You could look at a beautiful Native American and think, because there's ugly people physically or mentally in any given culture. But you could look at the beauty of somebody that God made and want them or don't care if they're just eliminated off the planet. Like I say, there's not millions. Oh, that's what I was going to say. The one line in that movie I watched, Older Than America, is that the Native Americans were being whitewashed. Well, so had the Africans, and so had the Egyptians, and I could go on with every culture that these people that claim to have victimhood have done all over the planet under the guise of other religions and other people that are still the same wherever they go with their victimhood mentality. And that's who we're battling. Even if you're a rabbi, you have to realize that those Noahide laws are against people you claim to love, people that you would like to envelop into your fold and your beliefs. Those very same people you would hurt under the name of laws that man wrote, because no God I love would write a law that somebody else is lesser than or even less than an animal is what your Talmudic teachings are. And don't tell me I'm wrong. I've read them over and over, and I've tried to make some kind of sense, like, what people are they talking about? Everybody except you. Don't pull the victim card anymore. It's not working. Oh. Well, I'm going to leave it here today. Hope you watch that movie. Hope you enjoy it. Like I said, made me cry. I'm not the biggest crybaby on the planet. I'm pretty strong in a lot of areas. But just knowing that shit happened just in a park I took pictures of because it's so absolutely beautiful up there in the mountains and not far from my house with people that look like you or I, and it's just ignored. Well, why don't we help get this word out? Why don't we help the Native Americans stand up strong and become the people that they want to be in their own country? Is there anything wrong with that? I think if I love a people, you might too. You might see the value of what could be lost on this planet if we just ignore it. People that actually helped. I'll give you another line out of the movie, and you've heard this before, but there was the white people that came in. Not only couldn't they farm, but in the wintertime they killed all the beaver for the pelts, sold the furs, and then they were starving. And it was the Cree Indians that taught them how to ice fish and smoke the fish so they could survive through the winter after they had already killed all the beavers that would dam up the rivers where the fish would pool so the natives could ice fish. So even after they destroyed the ecosystem, the natives still helped them survive. Same on the East Coast with the farming, when the pilgrims were starving. All through the Americas, the Native Americans helped the white people as they were being murdered. How nice is that, huh? Well, it's the truth. All right, everybody, have a wonderful night or day wherever you're at. Peace and love from Pine City, Minnesota, USA.